Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about one of my most unique, yet one of my most favorite jazz album sampler in my collection. Now before I go on with that album, I'd like to define what I mean by sampler, and we're talking about jazz sampler by the way. Anyway, there's many jazz samplers out there, and you can call them compilation samplers, the same thing. And I'm going to define a couple criteria. The first one should be obvious. It would be an album containing different songs from different artists, right? So that's pretty obvious for that in that scenario. But number two, when I'm going to define sampler, is going to be something current, like current being it's an album released by a like a record company, whether it's most likely going to be in-house artists or various artists that are current at that time the sampler was released. So there's a lot of jazz samplers, and like I easily can think of like CBS Records, or Columbia Records, things like that would release samplers of different jazz genres, like vocalists, or like straight jazz, things like that. And it would contain, let's say for vocalists, they would have like Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, and so forth. I'm gonna remove that from the sampler criteria because that's not current. Though that's usually just a compilation of artists in their catalog, usually in their catalog, and they would define a genre and stick popular songs from those popular artists. I'm not gonna. That's not part of it. This is literally just current. Current at that time the album was released. And so for jazz, for me growing up, there's a lot of these samplers that were released, especially in the 90s, 2000s, maybe the late 80s. I'm not so sure, and these would be like smooth jazz, right? So they're very popular at the time. Mainly the record label GRP. They would have a series of compilation samplers of all their artists, and then they would release each song from each artist that they have in their catalog. And GRP would usually combine with either a popular radio station, like in my case would be WNUA 95.5 smooth jazz radio. They would combine, so be GRP and WNUA, sampler 1, sampler 2, whatever. They have so many of these things. I think maybe 15, 20 of these samplers they release out each year. Or GRP would also hook up with, collaborate is probably the better term, with record stores at the time. Remember record stores, the physical stores that sell records and CDs and so forth. So you have something with Coconut Records, or I don't think Tower has its own thing, but Camelot Music, so forth. So, and it's not just GRP. I brought GRP up because they're pretty big on those samplers. You would have record labels like Novus, Narada, Windham Hill Jazz, so forth. Sorry, and then they would release their current stable of artists' new albums or new records, and compile them and then release them as a sampler. The great thing about these samplers, particularly at that time, for me at least, is that not only, obviously for obvious reasons, you would get an intro into different artists for that record label, but also they did sell these samplers, and they sold them cheap. When I mean cheap, it's brand new. Usually you could find them like $5 or something. They don't price them as, or if I recall, they don't price them as like a regular artist, how you would price a regular artist's album. they usually price them a bit cheaper, mainly because they're samplers, first of all. And sometimes you could see them clearance or given out because they're either cut off or something like that. I think some of these samplers were made for the record stores to actually play them in, as a listening station, or maybe through the actual speakers you can listen to them. But they're not supposed to be sold or something like that. So sometimes they would just leave them out for you to take for free at the front door. So anyway, so I have a lot of these jazz samplers, and as I mentioned before, a lot of them are through like these record labels like GRP and so forth that are combined with radio stations or the record stores. And there would always feature songs from their current artists and their upcoming albums or albums that are already released. For some reason, all of them I've got, majority, if not maybe for a couple of these smooth jazz or jazz samplers that I've gotten, that I have currently. I don't really listen to them. I have quite a bit as a collection, but I hardly listen to them. Mainly because, let's say GRP, right? That record label, all their samplers are going to contain familiar artists or popular artists that they have at the time. There's always going to be at least one Rippington song. There's going to be at least one David Benoit song. You can basically guarantee there's going to be something like that on there. And the problem with that is, I really like the Rippingtons. You can see it from my other video, this peak and decline of the Rippingtons and smooth jazz. Anyway, Rippingtons, David Benoit, a lot of the GRP artists I liked already, and I have their albums. So it's not only if it's a duplicate thing, but some of the selections they use as samplers aren't that good, and that's another thing too. It's like they pick maybe a song that is not popular or not a hit, or they thought that might be, but it's just not that good or anything like that. They just put it on there to put it on there. Well, at least that's what I think. So anyway, now I don't have every single jazz sampler in my stable at all. I don't claim that I have, nor do I claim that I've listened to all of them or a lot of them, but I do have quite a bit. And there's this one jazz sampler album I had that is so unique. I don't even remember how I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it brand new from a clearance, but I don't remember what store, when I got it, how much it was. Usually I remember those things, like at least one of them, but I don't remember any of the criteria. It could have been used as well, but this album, not besides being unique, but it is so good that it's probably the only jazz sampler album I have that I would listen to from time to time. As I mentioned before, my other jazz samplers, I don't listen to at all, pretty much. I mean, it's one or two times when I first got it, and that's pretty much it. And this is the album I'm talking about. It's called Alternatives, from CBS Records. It was released in 1989, and it contains artists, and when I mean unique, it contains artists that at the time I got this, I'd never heard of. None of these artists. There's like 8 artists on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 artists on here. Never heard any one of them. And after getting this album, listening to it and loving it, I still haven't heard of any of these artists later. I mean, it's like one of those, they compiled an obscure, unheard of. Maybe if you're really into jazz at the time, this was released in 1989 again, but this is basically mid-80s music, current music for these artists at that time. And I just never heard of any of them. And even to this day, I don't think anyone I've heard of or that was really popular maybe Kai Emiko, but Emiko is probably how you pronounce it. But yeah, it's strange. I've never heard of any of these artists. But what makes this very unique, besides not knowing any of these artists, is that the music on here is also unique. It's jazz, for sure. It's jazz, but there's no way to categorize it. I mean, I can't categorize or put it into any type of jazz subcategory. It's definitely not smooth jazz. Okay, it's not the smooth jazz that I know of like late 80s, 90s, 2000s smooth jazz. It's definitely not that. Okay, it's not straight jazz by any means. So the like the 50s, 60s, you know, even 70s, early 70s type jazz, I wouldn't categorize any genre from those times. It's not that. It has, but it has elements of it. It has elements of smooth jazz. It has elements of fusion jazz. It's probably a lot. You could consider this almost fusion jazz, but it's not the fusion jazz where people would categorize fusion jazz as. But it has a lot of fusion elements to it. It has some new age elements to it. And it definitely has world music elements to it, because all these artists, each artist on here is from around the world. I mean, outside of one, I think Free Flight is U.S. based, but let me list the artists real quick. You got, I don't know if you can see it, but Free Flight, Pierre Benswanson, I don't know, Osamu, Mac Lasser's Art, Kai Amico, the Kaiser Twins, Brian Slauson, and Inti Illimani. Okay, so it's like an artist from almost a different country, and creating music that's, I don't know if it's local to the country, probably not. It has maybe some elements of it, but playing their style of jazz, and that's what made this album, this sampler, so unique. It doesn't fit any category of jazz whatsoever, unless you call is alternatives a jazz category. If it is, I've never heard of it, but alternatives is aptly named for this sampler. It really is. It truly is. It feels like alternative jazz. Again, if there's such a thing as alternative jazz, this is the album I could think of. I mean, with these artists in it. So it's just very unique for what it is as a sampler. Again, these are current artists at the time, so mid 80s to late 80s, and they compiled, I guess, their best songs. And speaking of their best songs, this is my favorite album, not just for its uniqueness, but all the songs on here are damn good. It's very refreshing. Again, can't categorize it, yet it's good. It's something I can listen to over and over again when I feel like it. The other samplers, even though they're different artists with different songs, to kind of and that was the whole point of me buying a lot of these samplers, not just to get to know the artist, but I figured, you know, if you're gonna make like a mixtape, a sampler would be a good way of doing a mixtape. You don't get that repetitive, oh, sounds the same from one artist or anything. You get the good stuff from each artist, and they'll sound different, so it doesn't get repetitive. But as I mentioned before, all those samplers I got, the jazz samplers I have, I don't really listen to, except for this, and maybe another album I might talk down the road. But this is, again, very unique, yet very good jazz sampler, and I don't think they ever made a part 2 or anything like that, or at least I couldn't find it. And I don't know, it's something where if you're a jazz fan or starting to get into jazz, even a casual jazz listener, this album is something, if you can find, or online at least maybe, it's worth a shot to listen to how it is. You could probably find the album cover, the track listing, and then try to listen to each person's jazz, the songs they have on here, and just listen to them in order. If you can find it like that, I highly recommend trying it out, and then understand that's how it's put together on this album. And maybe I hope you'll come to the same conclusion. Well, I don't hope, but maybe you'll come to the same conclusion that this is a really, really great jazz sampler. Again, this is highly recommended if you can find it. If not, just listen to online. You'll be surprised. I'm pretty sure these are artists you've never heard of, or maybe you have but don't know their music. And the way it was put together like this, very unique. You can't categorize this in any way. It's truly an alternative form of jazz altogether, unique in their own right. And very impressed with this, and this is still on my listening rotation. So give this a shot. Let me know what you think.